Here's a thought. Have you ever just stopped and really wondered how it is that you can wonder about things at all? I mean, how can a bunch of simple, totally lifeless particles come together and create this rich, inner world of thoughts and feelings and awareness that you call, well, you? It's genuinely one of the biggest mysteries out there, and today we're going to dive right in. So let's start with something super simple. A rock, okay? It's made of atoms, carbon, silicon, oxygen, that kind of stuff. It's completely inert. No thoughts, no feelings, no awareness. It just sits there. All right, now let's look at your brain, the single most complex thing we know of in the entire universe. But here's the wild part. If you break it down to its most basic ingredients, you find the exact same stuff. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. The same fundamental, lifeless building blocks that make up that rock.
And that right there, that's the heart of the mystery. You take a pile of atoms, you get a rock, but you arrange that same pile of atoms in a slightly different, more complicated way, and you get a brain. You get something that can think about the stars, feel incredible joy, experience crushing heartbreak, and ask this exact question. How on earth does that happen?
With all this uncertainty flying around, there's really only one thing we can be absolutely 100% sure of: our own consciousness. The philosopher René Descartes famously boiled it all down to this simple phrase: the very act of you doubting your own existence proves that you, the one doing the doubting, must exist. That's our starting point. I know I am conscious.
Okay, but the second we step outside of ourselves, things get really murky. We assume other people are conscious, sure, but what about other forms of life? And when we start asking the experts, you begin to see just how blurry these lines really are.
Check this out. When scientists who study animal behavior are asked if the animals they study are conscious, the results are fascinating. For primates, our closest relatives, a whopping 92% say yep, for sure. For other mammals, it drops a bit to 73%. But for insects, it's literally a coin toss, right around 51%.
You see what's happening here, right? This shows a deep intuitive bias. The less something looks or acts like us, the less willing we are to believe it's conscious. So the really important question is, where's the actual boundary? Is there even a boundary at all?
And this is where the problem gets even stranger. I mean, what about an octopus? They're incredibly intelligent. They can solve complex puzzles. Or an insect navigating its little world. What about a plant that tracks the sun across the sky? Or get this, a single bacterium that moves away from a poison. Are these just biological robots running on code? Or is there some tiny flicker of experience inside, however faint it might be?
So, to try and get a handle on this, scientists have come up with several big ideas that try to explain how consciousness just pops into existence from the 3 pounds of stuff inside our skulls. Let's take a look at the 2 leading contenders.
So on one side, you've got the global workspace theory, or GWT, and that's all about attention. And on the other side, you have integrated information theory, or IIT, which is all about how deeply information is woven together. They're trying to solve the same problem from 2 completely different directions.
Let's start with GDW. Imagine your brain as a giant theater. There are countless things happening backstage in the dark, all unconscious. But consciousness? That's the spotlight on the main stage. Whatever information is in that spotlight, a thought, a sound, a memory, gets broadcast to the entire audience, which is the rest of your brain. You know that classic optical illusion where you can see a vase or 2 faces, but you can't see both at the same time? That's your conscious spotlight just flipping from one idea to the other.
Now, IIT takes a totally different approach. It says consciousness isn't about a spotlight, it's about a system's ability to weave information together. The more a system's parts are all interconnected and sharing information, and the more the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts, the more conscious it is. It's why when you're in a deep, dreamless sleep, different parts of your brain aren't really talking to each other, and poof, consciousness just fades away.
IIT even tries to put a number on this. It's a value called phi. So a system with a really high phi value, like your brain when you're wide awake, is highly conscious. A system with a low phi value, like a simple thermostat or even your brain in that deep sleep, has little to no consciousness. And here's the thing, theoretically, any system, even a super complex computer network, could be conscious if its phi is high enough.
But both of those theories are based in what we call classical neuroscience, neurons firing. But what if the answer lies somewhere deeper, in a much, much stranger realm of physics?
This is where we take a turn into the truly mind-bending. The idea that consciousness might not just be something that happens when you get enough brain cells together, but that it might be a fundamental feature of reality itself, rooted in the absolutely bizarre rules of quantum mechanics. So to get this, we have to quickly touch on something called quantum entanglement. This is where two or more particles get linked up in this really profound way, where they basically act like a single object. If you measure something about one particle, you instantly know the state of the other one, even if it's on the other side of the universe. It's this deep, kind of spooky connection. So the quantum consciousness theory suggests that these entangled systems exist inside these tiny protein tubes in our brain cells called microtubules. And when we think or perceive something, our brain observes these quantum systems, which makes them collapse from a fuzzy state of many possibilities into one single definite reality. And that collapse, that very moment of resolution, that's what we experience as a conscious thought.
This quantum idea opens the door to an even more radical and actually very ancient concept. It's one that completely changes our place in the cosmos. What if consciousness isn't just something that happens in brains? What if it's everywhere?
This idea is called Panpsychism. Now, it's not saying that a rock is thinking about its day. The idea is that the parts of the rock, the atoms, the electrons, have a very, very basic, primitive form of experience. It suggests that consciousness is just baked into the fabric of the universe, like mass or electric charge.
So this changes everything. It reframes consciousness not as an on or off switch, but as a spectrum. A single subatomic particle might have just a tiny, minuscule flicker of what you could call proto-consciousness, and as these particles combine into molecules, then cells, and eventually into complex organisms with brains like ours, this fundamental property combines and builds up into the rich, self-aware consciousness we experience every single day.
Which leaves us with this final, truly staggering thought. If consciousness is fundamental to all matter, then maybe we aren't just creatures living in the universe. Maybe we are the universe's way of waking up and experiencing itself. Maybe every thought you have, every feeling, every moment of awareness isn't just yours, but it's a piece of a cosmic awakening that's been unfolding for billions of years.
Health is the most precious gift. If this video helped you or someone you love, please like, subscribe, and share so more families can stay safe and healthy.